Welcome if you're new, welcome back if you are not. If you were not aware and you didn't see last week's video, firstly, I'll link it over here, or here, I always forget. But secondly, we are now onto the living room renovation. The garden is 90% done, and while our kitchen's getting installed, we've decided to move it indoors and get the lounge and dining room finished so that we've got a nice area to chill out, hang out in the evening and just wind down after a long day. You might not know this, although I have moaned about it in many videos. Tom and I haven't had a television or a dining room table in well over 2 years. And I don't consider myself to be a particularly demanding person, but eating dinner in bed whilst watching TV on our laptop is getting a little bit old. So if you did see last week, the painting is now done in all of the room and the flooring is done. We have actually ordered a bunch of furniture. We're picking up a bunch of furniture. We've already got a bunch of furniture, which you'll find when we bring it all in. But for now, I'm thinking about what do I want to put on those freshly painted walls? And there's two things I've been meaning to do for a very long time. One of them is get some art for the house, and another one is to upcycle our fireplace. It's the same fireplace that we have had in this house since we bought it. I believe it's been here since the house was built. That's 100 years ago, although I wouldn't know either way. It's just old. And I want to keep a little bit of the old. So we're going to be giving that a little bit of an upcycle, and I'll take you with me. But first, art. Now, I've gone a little bit art crazy, and I'm going to take you through all of it. But everything that we got is from Desenio. They were kind enough to actually gift us all of the prints, and there's actually a discount code for you as well. So let me show you the prints. Hang on until the end, or until the end of this segment, and I will let you know how you can get 40% off of your Desenio prints. I bought a whole bunch of different prints, just keeping in mind the mood board that I wanted for the lounge and dining room, and I think we've come up with some pretty cool ones. I also tried to envision what I wanted it to look like on the wall, so I started kind of cropping them and moving them around and trying to get a system or a pattern that I liked, and I think I've pretty much got there. I am really looking forward to seeing it on the wall, which I will be doing next week, but I just wanted to show you everything I got, and you will definitely see the finished product when it's ready. And I'm super excited to let you know that Desenio is actually giving me a discount code to give to you. So if you want 40% off of all prints, it excludes frames and personalized items. Just use the code BYAUTUMN at checkout and it will take that 40% straight off. It is actually valid right now and it expires on the 5th of June at midnight. So if you were planning on buying some prints, make sure to get them ASAP. But now it is time to put these prints onto something. So it is time for the DIY fireplace upcycle. Okay, so amongst all of the chaos is the fireplace in question. And on display we have some white vinegar, moldy bananas, and a tripod. Amazing. If you've been watching for a while, you would have seen that we did remove all of the chimney breasts around the house, except for this chimney breast right here, and this fireplace actually used to be here in the old dining room. So we wanted to get rid of that to open up more space, and we wanted to put the original fireplace into this chimney breast here. We started by knocking out the bricks here to form this, and then simply just plasterboarding the insides. When our plasterer did the whole room, he also plastered that as well. So we now do have the fireplace opening. The plan is to give this a paint, create a new hearth at the bottom, and decide what goes in there. To try and keep costs low, I'm just gonna paint it first and see what it looks like in the little alcove, but if I think it doesn't look that good or it needs a little bit more interest, I will go in and tile it later, but I'm just gonna paint first to match all of the other colors and see what it looks like. Okay, so I've got all my supplies and I think I know what I'm gonna do, but let me start by showing you what you'll need for a project like this. So in terms of supplies, you will obviously need a fireplace. You're then going to need some sandpaper to sand it down. I've got 150. I don't know if that's right or wrong. You're going to need some primer. I highly recommend the Zinza primer. It's what we used in our IKEA wardrobe hack, which if you've not seen, I will link over here. Then you're going to need paint. So we're going to be painting this the same color as the skirting boards and the architraves within the lounge and diner, which is going to be the Lick Black 04 in eggshell. So there's a slight sheen to it, which I think will look really good. And then you're going to need to be able to paint and prime with it. So I've just got some mini rollers and a paintbrush. Now, your fireplace might have a hearth. We did have a hearth I have no idea where it's gone. I think we must have got rid of it at some point. I mean, it was super battered and old, so we're going to be doing a fake hearth. I've looked online and they are quite expensive. Because this isn't a actual working fireplace, it's just a decorative fireplace. We don't need to get like a proper hearth that can withstand super high temperatures. So I'm actually going to be making my own and seeing how it works out. And to do that, I'm just using IKEA floating shelves. Now this is the Burholt. I have absolutely no idea how to describe it, but I actually screwed up, and these I think are going to be way too narrow and also just not wide enough or big enough to do the project easily. So I'm actually going to return this, and I'm going to be buying a lac shelf in 190 centimeters. Now that's obviously not the right size, but it's far, far cheaper than any other solution I've come up with. So I'll show you in a few steps how I'm going to deal with that. But yeah, basically I think that's everything you're going to need. I'll insert a clip right after this if I ended up forgetting something, which I'm sure I will. So step one is going to be to clean and prime. Now from where it was attached to the wall, there are still just a few bits that need to come off. So I'll just go over those with a scraper and just get as much off as I can. And then now that we've given it a clean and got as much of the glue and gunk and residue off it as possible, it's like the best state we're going to get it in. So I'm now just going to go over the whole thing with 150 grit sandpaper, just to give the primer something that it can stick to a little bit more easily. The Zinsser primer, as I said before, is absolutely brilliant, and it does even say that you don't need to sand, but I just want to give this the best chance of success, so I'm being double safe. And a tip to get even pressure on your sandpaper is to get a bit of wood and wrap it around, and so that way if you're using your hand, you know, the tips of your fingers will have the most pressure, and you might find that you're sanding pretty unevenly. So this makes it a lot easier to get it smooth. Honestly, all I do for this is just dunk it in and then give it a shake. Then you don't need to get one of those dirty. Okay, so this is all primed. I feel like one coat is enough, and while we wait for that to dry, we'll move back inside. So, as I said earlier, the indentation, I'm going to be painting black, the same as the fireplace, and then once it's all together, I'll decide whether I want to go in later and tile, but to keep costs as low as possible, I'm going to give it a paint first, and hopefully that will suffice. Okay, all done here now. The camera died. What you missed was me panicking that this was not black and it was in fact blue. But as it started to dry, it is coming through with the black. So we are okay. The fireplace has been in the glaring sun, so almost fell, for the last couple of hours. So I reckon that will be dry, and I'm just gonna take this black over and get started on that. So 20 minutes later, that's coat one done. I am slowly realizing this is going to take a lot longer than I expected, but as you can see, really struggling to paint anything with a good amount of detail, but I just had to get one layer on, and then this, I've done a second layer already, and it's actually a lot easier to stick once you've got that first layer of paint. So I will go inside, give this a couple of hours, and then come back for another one. It is the next morning. I spent the rest of yesterday doing a second coat on the actual fireplace and a second coat on the indent, or the kind of inside of the fireplace. It's looking pretty good so far. We definitely need a third coat on the fireplace. It's proving many more layers than I expected, but I'm pretty happy with it so far. It's got almost like a navy undertone, like super dark blue. I'm not sure whether it just looks more blue because the fence panels are true black, but I'm gonna put it into the room and see. I was thinking of more of an actual, you know, black color, but I actually think the kind of blue undertone works really well with the cream beige grayish walls. So yeah, I'm just gonna put it all together, and if later I decide I want it truly black with no blue undertones, I can always repaint. But I'm liking where we are so far. Next, we've got this, and that'll go inside of there, but it's been hanging around the house for over a year, and it's filthy. And it could also do with a little bit of touching up in a couple of areas as well. But first, I'm just going to give it a scrub and see where we land. Okay, so I've just ran to Tool Station. I've got this matte black Pro Coat Tough Industrial Cane. I bought in a spray can because there is so much detail. I didn't want to go in with a paintbrush and ruin the metal. I think this also works on metal, wood, and most substrates. So I'm going to give this a spray. I'm hoping the black matches the black. It's just a matte black. But if it doesn't, I'll do a light coat over the entire thing. Okay, so it actually just went on so nicely, I decided to do the whole thing. It's drying like a super matte black. Looks really good. There's two spots there. I definitely went in too close and there's a bit too much texture, but I think it'll be covered by that. I'm not entirely sure. I'll see when I put it all together, but I think it looks really, really good. So while that dries, I'm now moving on to the hearth of the fireplace. Now, I think I've already explained that at some point during this renovation, we lost our hearth. We must have thrown it or something, but I know why. It was in terrible condition. It was super chunky and horrible, and it had just been battered over the years. And I think even if we did still have it, we would want to create a new one. But I started looking at custom built hearths, or just buying a hearth the right size. They're super expensive. Everyone selling their fireplaces on Facebook Marketplace seem to be selling them without the hearth. It's just not a perfect situation. So I'm trying to be a little bit creative, and I'm trying to do this as cheaply as possible. So as I explained, I got an IKEA lac shelf. They come in 120 centimeters and 190 centimeters. I was really hoping the 120 centimeter one would be the right size and I could just pop it in, but it wasn't. Our fireplace from end to end is a little bit longer than that. And I personally really want my hearth to be sticking out either side a little bit. I think it's just a much cooler finish. And then you can chop out the skirting boards a little bit so it looks super seamless and super nice. So I had to go for the bigger one. That means that this here is going to have to be cut down to size. So I've just positioned it in a way that I like it. I think it looks really nice with that much sticking out the side. I've measured it, that's 4.5 centimeters. So I'm just gonna come over here and take 4.5 centimeters off of that side. Or actually thinking about it, I'm just gonna shift this whole thing that way so that obviously you're going to be seeing this side of the fireplace a lot more, given that it's the open part of the room. And instead I will chop this side of the fireplace because obviously you'll be standing here in this corner far less often, so it'll be less obvious. Okay, so Tom kindly chopped that up for me while I made some lunch. And what you can see is that now we have an exposed end. This over here is the bit that we chopped off. And what we learned when we did our shelves up in the dressing room is that you can actually get this off and we can screw it back down. But to get there, you've got to get this bit out and then you have to knock this bit out and this will be easy to pull off. So let's do that now. Now I've ripped this bit off so that I can just glue it onto here and seal that right back up. And there you go, glued. Added some nice heavy things on top, and that should dry nice and flat. Then we just want to deal with this little bit here. So Tom is mixing up sharp sand outside. We're going to basically just cement up in line with the hearth that we've made. And then what we've got is the offcut of the hearth, which is the lac shelf. We're actually just going to be slotting in. Because the opening on the cast iron kind of inner bit is much smaller than the opening that we've created, it doesn't matter that the bit of the shelf is a little bit smaller than that opening, because you'd have to quite literally put your head in to be able to tell it doesn't go all the way to the end. So I feel like this should be pretty good. And then all we'll do, super lazy, is just paint the cement once it's dry, the same color black as the hearth, and you should not be able to tell at all.
Yeah, but I would probably get some.
So there's a couple of things I wanted to still do, which I'm not going to be able to show you this time. Firstly, there's going to be a bunch of logs in there just to kind of finish it off. Obviously our house in the future will not be this dusty, so it's not going to gather quite as quickly. And although we have this lovely art here for now, we have actually created a hole coming out the side, so that if we did eventually choose to put a TV up here, we can just drill another hole in there and the wires can come through, be plugged in there and never be seen. So I hope you enjoyed watching us bring our very old fireplace back to life. I love the idea of us having one thing in this home that's always been there. Although we're making so many changes, I do quite like the idea of keeping something original, but still being able to paint it a darker color so it fits in the palette and the theme and the vibe of our overall house. Thanks again for Desenio for providing the prints that really do bring this all together. Tune in next week as well, where all of those other prints I showed you will be filling the walls in the rest of the room. I'm super excited for that. But I love that they just kind of finish off the piece. I love that the reds and oranges in here go really well with a statement piece of furniture, which again, you'll see properly next week. But also I think it just makes it all look a little bit cooler and a little bit more in with the theme that we like. So once again, thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. And just a reminder that my code for Desenio is below if you would like to get some money off your own prints. Thank you as always for watching. If you'd like to see more upcycles or watch this lounge and therefore house come together, please hit the subscribe button. We upload videos every single Wednesday. And speaking of Wednesdays, I will catch you in the next one. Goodbye.